So you huddled. Now what? It's time for creating effective action plans. We're moving into the improved stage of the CPI cycle, though honestly, that's a little funny to say because you and your staff are always improving. You're constantly thinking about your work, making tweaks, trying new ideas, and learning through trainings or experiences all year long. When we talk about the CPI cycle, we just mean being intentional about those steps, taking time to pause and focus on each part of the process. The images here show two versions of the same idea, one from Sprockets and one from the Ignite After School. They use slightly different language, but they both describe the same continuous process. Right now, we're shifting from the plan or check phases into the improve or adjust phases. In the check and plan phases, you looked at your data during the huddle and together with your team, figured out what was and what wasn't working well. From there, you decided what direction to focus on and identified 2 to 3 goal areas to work towards. Now, in the adjust or improve phase, it's time to make that plan go into action, trying out your ideas, making adjustments along the way, and continuing to learn as you go. You might remember this image. It was shared briefly at the end of our long huddle day. It shows information going in on the left and results coming out on the right, but in the middle, there's this mysterious miracle step. One person in the cartoon says, I think you should be more explicit here in step 2. Step 2 is the action plan, or as we like to call it, your commitment to action. This is where the magic really starts to happen. Today, we're going to dig into how to write goals and plans that are clear, doable, and inspiring for your whole team. Then we'll talk about how to keep that plan alive, making sure it doesn't just sit on a shelf, but actually guides your work even when things get busy. SMART Goals is an acronym that many are familiar with. A quick internet search can provide a variety of materials on the topic. This image is from Ignite After School's document, We Huddled, Now What? SMART goals help us set clear, realistic goals we can actually act on. SMARTY goals take it one step further, making sure our goals are also reflect inclusion and equity. So the S is specific. What exactly do you want to accomplish? For our huddle example today, we're going to say that after the huddle, the team identified that they wanted to increase youth participation in planning club activities. As a team, you then want to make sure that you're talking through the rest of the elements. M, measurable. How will you know it's happening? Can you quantify or observe the result? What will it look like when complete? For example, at least 5 youth will plan an activity. A is achievable or attainable. Is it realistic with your time and resources? What factors may prevent you from achieving your goal? Is your goal dependent on factors outside of your control? For example, we'll start with one planning session per month. While it isn't listed here, I also like to think of the A as the accountable. Do we have the people and who will be able to see it through? R, is it relevant? How does this connect with our bigger goals or mission? Why is this goal important to you and to your participants? So, for our example, youth voice is a key part of building program quality. T, time bound. When will it happen? If your goal is lofty, breaking it down into smaller goals with individual deadlines might help. So, we're going to say we'll review progress at the end of each quarter. Inclusive. Who's at the table and who's missing? Are you able to engage those most impacted, like specific staff or participants and families? So, for example, invite youth from different backgrounds or from different program areas. E, equitable. Does everyone have what they need to fully participate? Does your goal work against systemic injustice, inequity, or oppression, or does it perpetuate inequities? In our example, maybe we're going to provide translation or transportation support when needed. SMARTY goals remind us it's not just about what we achieve, but how we achieve it, making sure everyone can be a part of the process. A lot of times when people talk about SMART goals, they're talking about specific goal statements that include the answers to all of these things. Here's an example using the statements from the previous slide. Because youth voice is a key part of building quality, we will increase youth participation in planning activities by engaging at least 5 youth from different program areas and backgrounds in each session. We will start with one planning session per month, provide transportation and translation support as needed, and review our progress quarterly. Below, the specific elements are called out in red. When you have a really clear goal, it ensures you know both your target and your path to success. Instead of just saying our goal is to increase youth participation in planning club activities, your team now has a concrete, tangible plan to move forward. That said, let me keep it real for a minute. I hate wordsmithing. For some people, turning those individual statements from the earlier slides into a smooth, well crafted sentence is easy, even fun. For me, it's exhausting. So don't let crafting the perfect summary for your goal slow you down. The point is progress, not perfection. Keep it moving forward. Here is a commitment to action resource from Sprockets. As you see, it looks like mini goal setting sheets, so use whatever works best for you. Instead of getting stuck crafting a comprehensive statement, there are ways you can build in Smarty elements as shown here. This plan calls out those elements in red. You can pause to look more closely, but let's look at what it looks like in an example. In this example, the page tucked in the back represents the summary page. You can see that there are 3 goals listed. On their own, they aren't fully Smarty goals, just general goal statements. At the bottom of that page, there are 3 sections to record progress towards those goals. Something like this could be posted in the office or a staff room as a quick visual reminder of your team's focus areas. The supplemental pages are where all of the Smarty details get filled in. Ideally, this is a process you complete together as a team so that everyone understands what's involved and who's responsible for each part. We made this goal specific by identifying that we will plan 3 field trips to facilities with horses. We get even more specific and more likely to succeed by listing out the specific action steps needed to accomplish that goal. We'll measure progress towards this goal during staff meetings. That's how we'll track whether we're moving forward and confirm at the end whether we've reached our goal. We'll also reflect during planning sessions to ensure we're incorporating learning objectives and quality practices into those field trips. We'll check in weekly to review progress on the summer field trip planning, and we'll reflect again at the end of summer to capture what we learned. We also look at whether the goal is achievable given our staffing. Who will be accountable for each aspect? Sometimes teams write all staff for certain items. Even if that's true, it's still important to name who owns that part of the check-in. For example, in this case, Marcus is responsible for researching possible field trip locations. If the task were shared by all staff, Marcus might take the ownership of gathering ideas from others, or maintaining a shared list, or leading the brainstorming session. When a task is everyone's job, it can easily get pushed to the back burner, and then it falls on one person or it gets dropped entirely. So clear accountability matters. We know this goal is relevant because the program attendance dropped significantly in the beginning of the program, and youth survey results helped us understand that young people wanted more opportunities to connect with real horses. And finally, it's time bound. Each action step has specific dates attached. As we fill this out, we sometimes realize we are overly optimistic or occasionally find that we maybe move faster than expected. Smarty goals, when revisited regularly, become living documents that grow and adjust as we learn and make progress. You'll note the IE isn't explicitly put out here, but those are the conversations we have as a staff team on how are we making sure that all young people in our program have opportunities and that are equitable and inclusive. So if this is a living document, how do you keep it alive and not forgotten in a drive somewhere or on the I will get to it later pile on someone's desk? And when I say someone, that's usually mine. These are 2 examples of documents that might help either directly or as inspiration for what could work for you and your team. The first document is the one I mentioned earlier. You can see the whole page now. The other is the action plan tracking sheet from the We Huddle Now What document from Ignite After School. Both are similar in terms of the intent. What are the next steps? Now, this example doesn't have much space, but if you do use this, note at the bottom of the page you can remove the protections and add in additional fields to create your own version. The Ignite sheet similarly has just a few check-in components. You can use multiple sheets over time, and both are fillable electronically or print and write in. The point is to be very intentional about when to schedule and connect with your team around your progress. Here are some other considerations in keeping your team engaged. And you may already have versions of these ideas in place. If not, consider what might work for you. One way to keep the plan visible and active: the plan should live beyond the huddle. You can post a simple summary or a progress tracker in a visible place, like the ones I mentioned before, or create one of your own, something that staff can see at a glance. Identify a way that everyone can have access to the plan, action steps, or updates. You may already have a project management tool you use, or if you have staff that don't have access to electronic storage or desk time for those types of tracking tools, again, where can you post a hard copy or put them in a binder if that works? You can revisit the plan during regular staff meetings. Even a quick 5-minute check in keeps it alive. And celebrate small wins, recognizing progress happens along the way, not just at the end. Consider ways you could make your improvement plan feel more like a team project rather than a supervisory task. Ideally, you have already created some shared ownership through engaging your team and creating the goals. Involve staff in shaping action steps, not just carrying them out. This is why it's so important to have folks at your huddle. And if they can't be there, create time after the huddle to get their input into what it would take to reach those goals and why those goals are identified in the first place. You could rotate who leads updates or takes charge of parts of the plan. Invite youth or family feedback to guide your next steps. Keeping reflection as part of the process. What regular time do you have for reflection? Pause after big activities to ask what worked. What would you change next time? And link improvement work to the youth outcomes, revisiting the why that makes it important to your team. And model vulnerability. Share what you've learned from the setbacks. This reminds the team that you want to keep the plan adaptive and evolve as you learn. Reviewing timelines and adjust if something isn't working. And when progress stalls, engage the team in problem solving. Don't try to fix it on your own. And treat the plan as a living document that grows with experience. And finally, think about what kind of progress indicators motivate your team the most. Data helps people see what their work matters, and so does their experience of the impact of the changes. Reviewing youth feedback or attendance data together to show the impact and changes that are happening, or keeping discussions focused. What's been done? How's it working? What's next? And what's blocking progress? Creating an effective action plan isn't just about developing the plan itself, it's about fostering ongoing engagement and conversation to keep the work moving forward.